first, let's talk about the sort of history of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. That context, I think, is really important. I mentioned that there's been a lot of history of violence, of corruption, and then we have a sort of relatively new sheriff, Alex Villanueva, who was supposed to usher in a new chapter of fairness and reining in sheriff's deputies. And then just in the past few weeks and months, we had first the killing of Andres Guardado, and then the killing of Dijon Kizi, black and brown people being brutalized. Is this an important context for discussing the weekend's events?
This is absolutely something that's important to contextualize because it's really not, these really aren't events that are isolated to this past week, to this past weekend. There have been ongoing protests for months, even preceding George Floyd, about the treatment of the community by the sheriffs that are supposed to be in their service. So in terms of context, it really is just showing that the struggles that community members are facing in terms of getting accountability from the sheriffs is ongoing. So while events may have come to, might be heightened over the last week, this is an ongoing struggle.
So the protest camp that had been set up outside or in front of City Hall in near Grand Park. Tell me a little bit about that protest camp. It was quite, it was basically completely dismantled this past weekend, right?
It was raided at about 3 a.m. on Sunday morning. It was completely dismantled. If you were to drive by it now, I think it's just a fence that's covering the area, preventing people from seeing what is now an empty field. That's a protest camp that had been going strong for about 98 days. It was set up by activists in the wake of the protests following George Floyd's murder. And it was a place for activists to come together. It was a place for people who are newly becoming radicalized or joining, the Black Lives Matter movement to learn more, to learn how to organize. It was a safe space for activists to be able to really figure out how to get involved in the city, what the next steps are, how to outreach to other people. So it really is a big loss. And when we say it's a camp, it wasn't just a meeting place. For a lot of people, this was their home. This is where they had all their belongings. And so when the sheriffs raided, they took away their homes, and now there's a lot of unhoused people.
So, what was the manner of the dismantling of the camp? And would you say that it was in retaliation for the shootings of the two sheriffs?